I've just been reading a book on, one of my favorite subjects, of course, and that being a book on God and religion and the whole bit, and it's not the Bible, it's not my favorite book. This is a book called Man-Made God, and it's by Barbara G. Walker. I highly recommend getting this book. This book is just a fantastic resource for the Bible broken down. Anyway, I was reading this particular passage, and it got me thinking. About the origins of good and evil, and the devil and whatnot. And without really getting into too much detail, I'll read the passage and then we'll discuss it after. This is on the devil. Over the centuries, theologians have had the trouble with dealing with what is known as the paradox of evil, i.e., the impossibility of presenting God as both omnipotent and omnibenevolent. If God is almighty, then everything, including evil, can exist only because he wills it so. But if God wills evil, then he can't be all entirely benevolent. In Isaiah 45:7, God is a kind of demon deity who describes himself as the creator of evil. The problem facing theologians is this: if God can't prevent evil and won't, he can't be good. But if he wants to prevent evil and can't, he can't be God. It was partly an attempt to solve this paradox that led to Judeo-Christians' emphasis on the devil as God's equally matched adversary, so someone other than God could be made responsible for all sin, crime, suffering, war, hatred, disease, and any other nastiness that came along, including those natural disasters that are still officially described as acts of God. But this attempt only transferred the responsibility for evil back onto God to remove. For who, after all, created the devil and allowed him to work his evil without any appreciable indifference? Or would a kindly God have created that ultimate nightmare of sadism, hell, for his allegedly beloved children? Also, it seemed that in contest between God and his underworld adversary, it was the devil who won as often as not. Indeed, Armenian peasants at Easter time used to sacrifice one sheep to Christ and 30 sheep to the devil, on their theory that it was the devil's power on earth that was 30 times greater, and this gave rise to the whole, the earth is the devil's playground and whatnot. So, if the idea of, as Christians like to flaunt this idea that they have free will, and free will allows them to do as they wish, and of course to be judged later at a later time when they die, a judgment day. Free will gives rise to all sorts and manners of behavior from people. So free will, it encompasses good, it encompasses evil. It allows evil to exist. If evil exists because God wills it to exist, and as it says, if God can prevent evil and won't, he can't be good. But if he wants to prevent evil and can't, he can't be God. That pretty much sums up everything right there. It's sort of like they have made this perfect analogy of what is good, what is evil, the power of God, but none of it actually explains how this duality can exist without being accounted for, if that makes sense. God set up this idea that evil might not exist if Eve or Adam could have just left that tree alone. Yet the devil comes down and a talking snake convinces Eve to eat the apple, which she does, and this angers God. And so starts the ball of wax in the rolling. This ridiculous story gives rise to every act of evil, every act of barbarism, and just evil, if I can use that word to encompass everything. This one act is responsible for all of history's evil, and God knew it was going to happen because God is what? Omniscient. What does omniscient mean? Omniscient means that God knows everything. Okay, he knows everything. If he knows everything, then he knew that Lucifer was going to challenge him. He knew that Eve was going to be tempted by the devil, and he knew the outcome. Not only did he know that it was going to happen, he knew the outcome. So this goes back to the idea of, Christians, well, how can this be? Well, how are we going to make that story fly? I know. We'll call it free will. God gave us free will, and she chose, using her free will, to break the laws of God. Yet, God created Eve in his own image because he created Adam in his own image. If God created Adam and Eve, knowing full well that what they were going to do and how it was going to go down, then all you have to say is that, basically that God is an evil son of a bitch. There's no other way of, what other conclusion can you come to? It was a setup. And he knew what was going to happen. He knew the outcome. So it begs the question, why do it? Well, why give the illusion of free will if you know what's going to happen and the free will, you know the outcome at the end of it? Where is the free will? Because God knows everything. God is omniscient, and of course omnipotent, all-powerful, almighty, but he's unable to defeat the devil. Yeah. So it's a duality that has existed throughout history. All of mankind has been faced with this duality of the existence of itself. Good and evil, light and dark, perpetual cycle. And so, could we have lived, and could our entire existence have changed on a single decision? I guess it becomes sort of a paradox of itself. It becomes, ridiculous in some ways, because when you look at good and evil, and you look at how evil is portrayed in the Bible and then is portrayed in our world, on one hand we have God telling us to be good and live these wonderful lives, and everything will be great and merry, and then we go to heaven and we live forever and ever in perfect bliss and harmony, because there's no evil anywhere, no thoughts. Can you imagine living for all eternity in a state of bliss, like being high, and never being able to have an impure thought, and never having any thoughts of anything that could be considered immoral or unjust or impure, just bliss? It's not that far removed from 27 virgins when you die. Wow. Can't get them now, but boy, I'm gonna get them then. It's this amazing feeling of just wonderment of when you die, you're going to get all these wonderful rewards forever and ever and ever. These sort of thoughts are what drives people to do what they do. I put a post up on Facebook one time. This is probably about 2 or 3 years ago, and I got a lot of people that didn't understand it, and some people who did. And it went like this. I put on there, An atheist is someone who is good for nothing. And I truly believe that. I, being an atheist, I don't believe there's a God. I don't believe there's probably no chance for there to be a higher being at all. And if there is a chance, it's so infinitesimally small that it isn't even worth mentioning. If you look at the Bible, if you go back 2,000 years or 3,000 years or whatever, but the Bible is 2,000 years with Jesus, and even further back for the book of the Old Testament of the Bible. If you think of God was going to appear and he was going to make himself known to any people on the planet, why would you choose people that are like living in caves and have very, very little education? And when I say education, I mean compared to some other places on the world, like China, for instance. China, go back 2,000 years in China, and you see that there was a fairly sizable populace of people that could read and write and were inventing things. I mean, if you had to pick one place on the entire map of where to appear, why would you choose to go there? Why would you choose to go to people that were unable to think critically and question and investigate? It makes you wonder, why he never appeared to the Chinese. He never appeared to people who were critical thinkers. Questioned the world, questioned their surroundings, their environment, and are very, you might not agree with the Chinese people today. You think, oh, they're all communists and stuff like that, but their history in mankind, the history of mankind, it can't be denied their importance. I hope that, getting back to my original argument, that it makes you think. And as I said, get this book, Man-Made God. It's a fair size. It's a really good book. It's by Barbara G. Walker, and it's just a really good. She wrote also the Women's Encyclopedia to Myths and Secrets. Out of all the books that she wrote, I think this is probably one of the best, because it's actually written in an essay style. It's not written in any other. It's basically, these are essays and various public speaking things that she has done, and it's all been put together in a book. Man made God. God did not make man. Simple. Anyway, I'm sure you guys have had enough of me, so I'm going to log this off, and just if I leave you with one thought, just remember that, fuck it. Peace. See ya.